Welcome to Tier 6 of the urban legend Iceberg. If you want to see the original image of the iceberg, you can look in the description below and find the original Reddit post where the user DarkMoon230 originally posted this image on Reddit. They are a close friend to me, and I would appreciate it if you gave them some kind of shout out or commented on their Reddit post. Thank you. Let's explore the iceberg. Walking Sam is a creature which is said to haunt the Pine Ridge Reservation near the Black Hills in South Dakota. Walking Sam is described as being over 7 foot tall, appearing incredibly thin, almost stick-like, and wearing a stovepipe hat. He has eyes, but no mouth. It's also described that Walking Sam has the bodies of his previous victims underneath his arms whenever he lifts them. Walking Sam is said to be able to convince teenagers to hang themselves by firstly whispering in their ear. Then they will feel a deep feeling of death envelop them, and this victim will suddenly be haunted by voices telling them that they should no longer live, and that they have no reason to live. This will start to continue until the teenager finally commits the act. Walking Sam seems to go after anyone under the age of 25, but there have been cases of him going over this age range as well. Between the years 2014 and 2015, there were over 103 suicide attempts, which have been attributed to Walking Sam, but luckily only 9 of these attempts were successful. Other reports state that Walking Sam may just be a friendly entity who just wants to make friends. However, a bad omen that follows him causes these teens to commit suicide who become friends with him. This eventually causes Walking Sam to walk the Pine Ridge Reservation alone, with this curse hurting any human being he wants to befriend. The Midnight Jogger is also referred to as the Phantom Jogger of Canyon Hill. This apparition is said to appear at the Canyon Hill Cemetery. The spirit can only be summoned if you complete a ritual correctly. Firstly, you have to park between 2 trees facing the cemetery, and if you manage to park between the correct trees, the Midnight Jogger will come over to your car and tap on the window. She will appear to have no legs, and when you see her, she will merely hover in midair with only a head and torso as her entire body. Bodies in the Sydney Harbour Bridge is an urban legend about the Australian world wonder of the same name, where in 1926 it was reported that during the construction of one of the pillars of the bridge, 16 men decided to have a break from the construction and decided to hide in the pillar so they wouldn't get shouted at by their boss. However, these men spent a bit too long inside of this pillar because they were having that good of a time drinking, smoking, and playing cards. No one had heard from these men in hours, and no one knew where they were. The next morning, this part of the bridge was capped, meaning that all of these men had been crushed to death by massive pieces of stone that were used to fill this part of the bridge. It wasn't until later on that these workers started to notice that there were significantly less workers than before. A complaint to search for these workers had reached the head of a construction project, to which he just said to continue on with this project as these men would soon turn up, because searching for these men was less important than building the greatest bridge the world had ever seen. When the workers had heard these rumours, they made sure to sprinkle droplets of wine into the bridge's pillars as a sign of respect for the dead, and to make sure that they wouldn't meet a similar fate to their co-workers. The Himero Mansion is a building in Japan which many fear to even step inside, due to people allegedly being found dead inside of its walls, as well as people being found with strange rope marks on their hands after they have left the building. These cases are most likely due to the demon which haunts these grounds, who is said to have lived underneath the house whilst the Himuro family had lived there. The Himuro family would perform a ritual every 50 years called the Strangling Ritual, which kept this demon satisfied so the family could continue on living there. The Strangling Ritual consisted of a young girl being chosen at birth by the master of the house to be used for the ritual. The girl would then have to live her life in isolation from the rest of the world without making any contact with anyone outside of her family. Once it was time to perform this ritual, the family would tie every limb of this girl to an animal of some kind, and they would pull until this girl was torn to shreds, leaving her blood everywhere for the demons to witness. This was thought to keep the demon at bay, as this ritual had seemed to work for many generations in the Himuro family. This was until one rotation of the ritual, in which the young girl saw a man staring at her through her window, and she instantly fell in love with him, as he did with her. But in the eyes of the master of this house, this made her tainted and unworthy of the ritual, now meaning he had no one to sacrifice for the demon. Fearing for his family, the master of the house decided to spare his family from the demon's wrath by massacring them all. Then, himself. It is said that no one really knows what the Himero Mansion is, but if you find it, your body might not be seen again, alive or dead. The Montauk project is an urban legend surrounding the military airbase known as Camp Hero. Allegedly, there were several experiments being conducted on young teenagers who were kidnapped from their homes. These experiments are said to be early looks into time travel, extraterrestrial contact, teleportation, and is even stated to be a continuation of the MKUltra project. Scientists working there report that children would be tortured in horrific ways, with near drownings, electrocutions, and live burial experiments. Once the child was close to death, a scientist would take them out of the experiment and declare that they were their savior, and the child would continue to praise them like they were a god. These children would then become spies when they were old enough and carry out government operations from around the world. Many of the alleged witnesses to these experiments state that these stories are true, and they have witnessed alien activity with their own eyes, many are recounting of how these large and grey aliens would often disregard the scientists and would only speak to certain figures of authority who they would openly talk to. These scientists have held close to these stories up until their last breath. The night marchers are said to be certain apparitions which haunt certain spiritual areas of Hawaii, such as graveyards, valleys, lava fields, and beaches. These apparitions are said to look like ancient Hawaiian warriors who are fully dressed in battle clothing with drum marchers beckoning their wake. Some people state that this ghostly army is looking for new members to join their ranks, or for someone to show them the way to salvation where they can finally rest. People most commonly report that these night marchers are seen in dark, foggy nights, but have occasionally been sighted during the day as well. It is said that you must not look into the chief's eyes of the night marchers, or any of the other beings walking with them, otherwise yourself or one of your relatives will be struck down by instant death, or a bolt of lightning emanating from the warrior's eyes that will disintegrate you, and your body will be left as a fog circulating around the night marcher's parade. People have avoided this fate by either not making eye contact by hiding face down on the ground, or by seeing an ancestor of theirs who are in the same bloodline as them, and it will save them from meeting the same fate, as many have done so before. I would love to see your opinions in the comment section below on what you thought my video was like. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.